See that right there? That's the Oxford English Dictionary definition of morality, and it's a concept that video games have been exploring for years. Hell, it's something that literally every form of media has been exploring for years, but video games offer a unique way to explore it, because in games it's you making the moral choice. Not all games are created equal, however, so it's only natural that some games do morality better than others. Most of them go for the easily broken down binary moral problem where you can either be Jesus or a complete shithouse. In fact, that describes most games with a moral choice system, from Bioshock's Little Sisters to Dishonored's choices to what you do with your targets, all the way through to literally every BioWare game ever made. Not even Fallout New Vegas could get away from it completely, with the utterly pointless karma system bolted on top of the vastly more interesting faction notoriety system. Oh aye, what did you choose? I'm not the egomaniac who went yes man to rule the entire Mojave. Moving on. There are some games that explore the whole idea of morality in some rather intriguing ways though, where the morality comes into play directly through gameplay rather than hard-coded moral choices. Let's take a look at a few examples, namely Darkest Dungeon, Papers, Please and Spec Ops The Line, all three of which do morality a bit differently. So Darkest Dungeon first, and what we've got here is a game where you're running a team through dungeon after dungeon and dealing with their issues as they pop up. Physical elements get fixed once you leave a dungeon, but the mental problems that arise from facing hideous abominations that man was never meant to see, well, those stick around and take time and effort to fix. The options for post-dungeon mental restoration aren't exactly what you'd call brilliant either. You can send them to a pub to drink their problems away, or to church to pray their problems away, or, as a last resort, you can send them to the hospital to be experimented on. And that's where it gets interesting, because it means that there is an optimal way to play the game, a way that fits in perfectly with the utter fucking misery that permeates the game's universe. Those cures that help people's mental well-being, those are expensive. But the people you can recruit to your squad to replace the ones with broken minds and damaged souls, yeah, they're free. I'm betting you can see where I'm going with this. Objectively speaking, the best way through this game is to run your squad through dungeon after dungeon until they break, then toss them aside so you can recruit more people to throw into the meat grinder. So in other words, play the game like a sociopath and you'll obtain victory. Try to be a hero and you'll die a slow, painful death. Like the Iron Maiden song says, only the good die young. And then we come on to Papers, Please, another game where you'll be forced to do whatever you have to try and ensure you and your family survive, even if, no, not if, when it means compromising your morals. Every day your rent goes up. Every day, more and more bureaucracy is added to your job, and you have to do your job because that rent has to be paid, and your family needs to be fed and kept warm, and God help you when one of your family gets sick. That would be bad enough, but then the game throws curveballs at you, where the morally right thing to do is also the worst possible thing to do in terms of yours and your family's survival. Take for example the man who comes through the checkpoint with all his papers in order, who tells you that the next person in line is his wife. Anyone with even a vague sense of the dramatic would know immediately what happens next. Yeah, that's right, the wife's papers are not in order, thus setting up an utter bastard of a choice for you. Do you do the morally right thing and let her through to be with her husband, or do you refuse her entry, which will split them up, but which might mean the difference between your family living or dying? Oh, and you better be bloody quick about deciding too, since every moment you spend piddling about is time where you're not earning money to feed your family. Yeah, much like the real Cold War East Germany upon which the fictional nation of Arstotzka was based. You could be a good person, you could be the bestest person in the entire world, but Papers, Please will force you to become a bastard to survive. So that's two examples. You've got Darkest Dungeon, which will turn you into a sociopath in the name of victory, and you've got Papers, Please, a game that perfectly illustrates the concept of the banality of evil, where you are corrupted and driven to evil acts through protocol and bureaucracy, rather than through a conscious choice. The thing that links both games is that you have a choice in how to play the game, thus provoking you into thinking about the choices you make. But what about a game where the only moral choice is to not play the game at all? Yes, that game is Spec Ops The Line, and be warned, because we're about to do massive spoilers. The thing about Spec Ops The Line is that it's not really what it says it is. All the advertising painted it as being generic modern military shooter number 974, only this time it's set in Dubai, after a catastrophic sandstorm has wrecked the city, so it's up to the United States of America to come steaming in playing big damn heroes and saving the day through the time-honoured tradition of blowing up everyone who looks at you funny. Except that's not actually what it is. You can tell that's not what it is because the game's inspired by Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, the book that formed the basis for Apocalypse Now. And so begins the journey of the soldier and walking war crime that is Captain Martin Walker, a man who set out to be the hero and whose every action will make everything so much worse. Now, there are a couple of binary moral choices in the game, but they're not necessarily presented as being moral choices. The one that comes to mind is in a scene later in the game, immediately after your helicopter crashes and you find yourself surrounded by a mob of angry locals armed with pitchforks and machetes. The only way to proceed is to disperse the crowd somehow. You have a choice. Do you light the crowd up with your very big guns, or do you fire into that open patch of sky above them? Both options will get them to leave, and the game doesn't draw attention to the choice in any way whatsoever, so the only consequence is knowing that you chose to open fire on what are ultimately innocent bystanders. So you've got moral choices that aren't even remotely signposted, but Spec Ops The Line is at its best when it takes the choice away completely. After all, the game's loading screens constantly tell you that you can turn back, that you can simply stop playing and the horror will end. So if you keep playing, you only have yourself to blame for how much worse it gets. And then comes that scene. Anyone who's played it knows exactly which scene I mean. Yes, I'm talking about white phosphorus. The setup is simple. Huge nest of enemy soldiers. The only way past is to use satellite imaging and white phosphorus shells to burn them out and clear the way. You have to burn them to progress the game. After that, you have to walk through the corpses to reach the exit, and that's where the game forces you to witness the horror you've wrought upon Dubai. Yeah, not all of the targets were soldiers, especially not the mother cradling her terrified baby, who you reduced down to a pair of charred, blistered corpses. No, you could argue that the game gave you no choice, but, well, that's the point, isn't it? Like the loading screen said, you could have turned back at any point. Really, when it comes down to it, Spec Ops The Line presents one massive moral choice. Either you become the monster, or you simply don't play the game. It's a fascinating dissection of games in general, although to be honest, given that the game tells you not to play it, I reckon we can take a wild guess as to why 2K never gave it a sequel. So there you have 3 games that I reckon do the morality thing really well through gameplay mechanics instead of arbitrary moral choices. Unlike some games I could mention, a moral choice in these is more than just deciding whether you end up as a glowy-eyed bastard or Space Jesus. And on that moral conundrum, it's time to end. Thanks very much for watching. I am AutomaTitan, and remember, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing, which is precisely why I keep the polo mallet around for when Subtitle Guy gets particularly villainous.
No one's out there.
Then what the fuck are we doing here?
Lugo's got a point. taking his side now?
When he's right, he's right.
Hey, come